They erased me from the guest list, but left my name printed clearly on every invoice, every payment confirmation, nearly $10,000 worth of belief. That was the moment it hit me. Love stripped of respect is just another unpaid debt dressed in sentiment. My name is Penelope Harris. I run a bakery in Asheville. It's not much, no spotlight, no spectacle, but it's honest. Every morning at 4:00 a.m., while the city still dreams, I rise to beat batter in silence. 7 years of flour-dusted mornings and aching wrists thinking if you give enough to family, they'll keep you close. That illusion shattered on a quiet Friday afternoon under the hum of soft jazz and the scent of cinnamon rolls. I was wiping powdered sugar off my fingers, refreshing my order app between pickups. A simple reflex led me to Facebook. What greeted me wasn't news, it was erasure. A gold-trimmed wedding invitation smiled from the top of my feed. Ivory, elegant. Her name, Samantha Harris, looped in cursive beside his Noah. And the caption, "The countdown begins." Can't wait to share this sacred moment with all my dearest loved ones. My heart stuttered. I read it again, once more slower. No tag, no message, no seat reserved for the woman who made it all possible. I clicked the photo. The comments stung more than the invitation, wedding of the year. So exclusive. A crowd of applause for a performance I funded but wasn't cast in. It had to be a mistake. I scrolled further, trying to find a clue, anything. After all, I signed the venue contract. I wired the $5,000 deposit. When our parents hesitated, I stepped in. She'd cried to me about her dream dress, Jenny U silk, and impossible. $1,800. No questions asked. But now, nothing. I messaged her. Kept it light. Hey, Sam saw the invite. Maybe mine got lost in the mail sent. I set the phone down, forced myself to pipe cream into eclairs, while my chest tightened like a knot too tangled to undo. 15 minutes. 30. Sunlight slipped into amber. Still nothing. No reply. No typing dots. Silence grew teeth. And then at 8:42 p.m., my phone lit up. Samantha Penn, I hope you understand. We had to be very selective. It's a minimal, elegant event. Nothing personal. Still love you. Hope you'll be cheering us on from afar. From afar. Minimal, elegant. My presence didn't match the curated aesthetic of her new life. My jaw clenched. Not out of anger, out of realization. This wasn't forgetfulness. It was precision. Erasure on purpose. The girl who once laughed with me over stolen eggs and burnt toast had become someone who edited me out of her highlight reel. I remember the silence after that text. Not how long I sat in it, just the cold clarity that spread through me. She didn't just forget me. She chose to forget. I turned the lights off in the bakery early. Not because I was tired. I just couldn't look at myself under fluorescent truth. 38 single owner of a bakery that once made the front page for handcrafted wedding cakes excluded from the very rituals I helped build. That night, I lay in bed, eyes open, staring into the dark like it owed me answers. Every memory of us was now a needle. I saw her again, 10 years old, dusted in flour, eyes wide, laughing when I dropped an egg on the floor. That girl vanished the day she left for business school in Boston. Somewhere between branding strategies and minimalist aesthetics, I became obsolete. I remember when I first showed her my bakery. I was 29. Sleep-deprived, burned fingers, dough under my nails. She came in, smiled politely, and said, "It's cute. Very rustic." Then she checked her phone. That was the first warning. I ignored it. But this was the final cut. I remember the way she said it offhand, but sharp. Cute pen, just a bit handmade. You know people expect premium experiences now. She said it while looking past the pendant lights. I wired myself the reclaimed wood shelves I built piece by piece. I smiled, then masking the raw cracks lining my knuckles from a night spent scouring pans until the water ran cold. That smile wasn't agreement. It was survival. After that visit, Sam stopped coming by. Her excuses were tidy professional networking LinkedIn presence industry mixers. I didn't press. I already knew. In her eyes, I was quaint. Temporary. No sleek office, no power heels, no lanyard with a name badge. Just the constant scent of butter and cinnamon clinging to my clothes, the hum of ovens, and a line of loyal customers who believed in what I made. My staff believed too. I had wedding orders booked 2 months in advance. Still, at every family dinner, the spotlight found her. Strategy lead, rising star. Her titles were poured like champagne, effortlessly, endlessly. My father raised his glass. My mother beamed. Questions flew about her work, her salary, her future. When I shared that my bakery had officially hit 6 figures after 5 years, my mother barely blinked. "Oh, that's nice. Everyone likes sweets." That was all. No one asked how many 4 a.m. alarms I'd endured. No one cared how many college students I mentored and employed. No one saw the business, only the absence of a title. I told myself I was used to it. But her message last night, short, sanitized, strategic, was a blade. A deep one. You don't fit the vibe. It echoed like a verdict. I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. The words kept pressing down like bricks on my chest. All I ever wanted was to be there, to watch her walk down the aisle in the dress I helped her afford, not as a benefactor, as her sister. And instead, I was labeled incompatible, too vanilla-scented, too real. The sacrifices screamed louder in my head. The double shifts, the missed holidays, the oven that took me a year of scraping savings to buy. The dozens of nights I cleaned the entire shop alone, wondering if it would all be worth it. But in Sam's curated world of brand partnerships and champagne toasts, none of that translated. I was too honest, too unscripted, too much of a reminder of where we came from. I rolled over, staring into the ceiling's quiet indifference. I wasn't angry, just awake. Something inside me was speaking now, slowly, deliberately. I let them see me through the eyes of people who measured worth in resumes and restaurant reservations. I thought love was enough. But they didn't want love. They wanted an image. I had built that image for her, funded it, sustained it through my labor. And I was done. By morning, a strange stillness had settled in me. There were no Sunday orders. I didn't open the bakery. I just slipped on my baking dress, pulled a light sweater over my shoulders, and drove toward the house where we used to gather under maple trees. The same house where no one ever asked how I was really doing. I didn't call ahead, no warning, just the need to look truth in the face. The gravel crunched under my tires. The trees stood bare. I walked toward the back door, instinctively, silently. Childhood muscle memory carried me over the threshold without a sound. Then I heard it heels on tile, her voice crisp and cold. "If she shows up at the wedding, it'll ruin the image I've built." I stopped breathing. Not out of fear, but to hear clearly. She continued unfiltered. "I told you it's a refined, elegant event. I can't have someone in a bakery apron and a cherry headband next to marketing directors and lawyers." I clung to the doorframe. The wood bit into my skin, but I didn't move. "But she's your sister." My mother's voice. "Fragile?" "You know how it is, Mom." Sam snapped. "People ask what she does, and she just says, 'I make wedding cakes.' Like it's a cute hobby. Everyone else is talking startups and MBAs, and she's buttercream. There it was. The truth. Poured out freely when they thought I wasn't listening. My stomach turned. Then Mom again, quieter this time, almost apologetic. Penelope's a good person, but she just doesn't fit. She's blunt, and she always smells like vanilla and butter. I closed my eyes. That scent, they couldn't scrub off me. That was survival. That was mine. My father's voice drifted from the living room, then distant, indecipherable. But it didn't matter anymore. I had heard enough. She's done more than anyone to help. We owe her. My father began, but Sam cut in, voice cold and trimmed with calculation. No one forced her to pay, she said. She volunteered. I didn't ask. I just want a proper wedding. And if that means cutting out a few mismatched elements, I'll do it. That was the moment I opened the door. 3 heads turned in unison. My mother froze, mid-slice her knife suspended over half-chopped herbs. My father was half-turned toward the window, a man caught between denial and shame. Sam stood squarely in the center of the room, chin-lifted hands on her hips like a CEO ready to dismiss a failed pitch. Her eyes widened when she saw me. I stepped inside, quiet, deliberate, and shut the door behind me without flinching. Mismatched, I said. The word dropped into the silence like a shard of glass. That's what I am to you. My voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It sliced through their performance with precision. So I'm the off-brand shade in your carefully curated color palette. Sam tried to recover, smoothing her tone like icing over a cracked cake. You came without calling. That's unexpected. I looked at her. Didn't want me to embarrass you in front of your polished friends, right? A baker with a cherry print headband and too much sincerity. I tilted my head. But taking my money, that part fit your aesthetic just fine. What are you even talking about? Sam asked, feigning innocence. You didn't ask. You cried, begged for that Jenny U dress. Talked about how much it meant to you. I turned to my mother, already knowing what I'd see. And you, Mom. You really believe I'm not elegant enough to sit next to your friends in silk blouses, talking about hedge funds and market strategy? My mother dropped her eyes. Penelope, it's not personal. Sometimes lifestyles just don't align. I laughed. Not out of bitterness, out of clarity. Right. I don't fit the image Sam's selling. I don't meet your definition of grace. And you, Dad? I faced him. He didn't move, just looked at me with that same familiar silence, a man too afraid to disrupt the illusion. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my keys. Well, I'm done funding a world that was never built for me. My voice was steady, not broken, just done. No one followed me out. No one called my name. Driving away, I rolled the window down. Cold wind hit my face like reality slapping me fully awake. But even that couldn't numb the ache sitting at the center of my chest, raw and old and finally exposed. Back at the bakery by 10 a.m., I turned on the ovens out of instinct. There were no orders, but I needed noise, something to drown out the words that still echoed. Not a good fit. A bit too homemade, hard to blend her in. The cake I baked that morning wasn't for a client. It had no name, no purpose. Just egg, sugar, and the bitter knowledge that I was done trying to prove my worth in a family that measured love and social capital. At 11:47, my phone buzzed. Samantha. The screen showed one line. Pen. Can you cover the remaining $1,200 for the cake? They need payment to hold the delivery slot. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she said, what I heard. Just another invoice. Another expectation that I would quietly fund the illusion. I laughed. But it wasn't soft. It was sharp, like glass underfoot. I wiped my hands on my apron, poured a cup of black coffee, sat at my desk, and stared at the warm vanilla cake cooling on the rack. Then I picked up my phone and began typing. Slowly. Each word pulling a thread of silent endurance I had carried for too long. Sam, I wouldn't want to embarrass you by having to explain that your sister is a baker, so I'll respect your image. I'm sure you'll figure it out without someone who doesn't fit the vibe. No insults, no fire, just closure, each line a door shutting gently but finally. I hit send. 5 minutes later, the first call came in. Ignored. 12 minutes after that, another. Then another. Sam, Mom, Dad. Sam again. I didn't answer. I closed the shop early, went home, turned my phone off, spent the afternoon scrubbing the corners of my apartment I usually overlooked, tossed every dried flower pot off the balcony like old bones. I wasn't cleaning out of spite. I was reclaiming space. That day was the first time I said no to Sam, not in anger, but because I no longer mistook obedience for love. I didn't need to bleed for a seat at a table where the silverware was polished, but the loyalty was tarnished. When I finally turned my phone back on, I counted the fallout. 14 missed calls, 7 texts from Mom, 3 from Dad, 5 from Sam. The words blurred into the same refrain, fix this. But I wouldn't, not this time, because I was never meant to be their cushion. And I was done auditioning for a part in a play that always made me the prop. I deleted every message, not in bitterness, not as revenge, but as ritual. A silent redrawing of boundaries no one else had honored. There comes a point when self-respect stops asking for permission. Kindness, weaponized, becomes a leash. Blood misused becomes currency. And that week my sister was going to learn what it looked like when the banker closed her books. The kitchen was warm that afternoon, filled with the scent of vanilla and almond, as I frosted a cake for a longtime client, someone who paid me, not just with money, but with respect. My phone buzzed relentlessly across the counter, skimming along the stainless steel like an insect I refused to swat. Mom, Dad, Sam. Then, Mom again. The phone glowed, vibrated, danced like their guilt was trying to claw its way into my calm. I didn't answer. I couldn't bear the rehearsed lines anymore. Pen, we're family. Honey, I know you're upset, but this is a big deal. All of it soaked in guilt, sweetened just enough to make me hesitate. I refused to hesitate now. They called again the next morning. As soon as I turned the key in the bakery's lock, the screen lit up with new attempts to shift the burden back onto me. Your sister's really stressed. You can't stay silent forever. Mom, you agreed to do the cake. You said it yourself. Canceling now is irresponsible. Ben, don't make this bigger than it needs to be. I know you're mad, but you already said yes. Dad. And finally, sweetheart, maybe you should talk to Sam. Avoid misunderstandings. A rare message from him. Misunderstandings. The word curled in my mouth like spoiled fruit. No one asked why I was silent. No one asked how I was doing. They weren't reaching out to understand me just to ensure I kept performing. My promise mattered more than my presence, my money more than my voice. I placed the phone down like it burned and let my body move on instinct, mixing batter-weighing, sugar-cutting parchment. But inside, everything was still, cold, clear. That evening, I made the call. Not to Sam, to my mother. She picked up quickly. Oh, finally. You don't have to say much. I cut her off, voice steady, almost too calm. I'm calling for one reason, Mom, to be clear. She paused. then sighed like I was making things harder than they needed to be. I know you're upset, Pen, but this can still be worked out. No, it's not about being upset, I said, my grip tightening around a glass of water. It's about where I stand in this family. And I've decided I won't stand there anymore. Silence. You never asked me how it felt to be left out of my sister's wedding. You never asked why I said no. You just called me irresponsible. Her voice wavered. What's done is done, sweetheart. There's no use in holding on to it. I breathed in deeply, then let the words go like truth slipping from a cage. Done. No one accidentally forgets to invite the person who helped pay for half the wedding. Do you know what it feels like to be a walking ATM? Call me when you need something. Ignore me when you don't. She didn't reply. I'm not angry anymore, Mom. But I'm finished playing the role you've assigned me all these years. I won't pay another dime. No deposits, no favors, no quiet endurance. If I'm invited, I'll show up. If I'm not, I'll stay away. That's the line. Her voice returned soft and grasping. Have you really thought this through? More than you think, I said, and hung up before the urge to soften crept back in. Later that night, Sam finally texted, You're blowing this way out of proportion. The cake was just a small part. I need your help, that's all. I stared at the message. The entitlement practically shimmered through the screen. No apology, no recognition of the betrayal, just another transaction. I replied with one line. I've decided to put myself first for once. Then I placed the phone face down. And for the first time in years, I didn't check it again. I placed the phone face down, closed the app, and let soft jazz fill the silence. Outside, Asheville's sky dimmed into ash-blue streaks. Inside the kitchen, the lights glowed with a quiet defiance, steady warm, unfazed. The air was thick with sugar lemon zest and something else I hadn't felt in years, certainty. Boundaries. Real ones. And they were mine. By Monday, life returned to its rhythm. I was showing Olivia, my new intern, how to adjust the oven temperature for lemon butter cakes. She had a steady hand, a quiet eagerness I liked. Then the doorbell chimed once sharp final. I glanced up. Not a delivery, not a customer. My mother. She stood framed in the doorway, wrapped in her usual beige wool coat, hair pulled into a neat twist. The same practiced elegance. But her face gave it away. That tautness in the jaw, the desperate dart of her eyes. She scanned the shop until her gaze found me, apron flecked with flour, standing like an anchor in the storm she hoped I'd contain. I gently set down the tray. Olivia, I said softly, can you check on the afternoon delivery list? She nodded and disappeared into the back, leaving just me and my mother in the scented air, between silence and confrontation. What brings you here, Mom? I asked, with the calm cadence of someone taking an order, someone trained not to flinch. She stepped closer, voice hushed like confession was currency. I didn't want to come, she began. But Samantha, she's in panic mode. I didn't respond, just rested my hands on the cold steel counter, waiting. She looked around once more, then leaned in. The venue called. If they don't receive the remaining balance by Wednesday, they'll cancel. The wedding cake isn't finalized. The florist hasn't been paid. Everything is unraveling. I remained still. Let her say it all. There are only 2 weeks left. You know how much Samantha has planned for this. If no one helps, she'll lose everything I finished for her flat and controlled. And everyone assumes that help comes from me. She blinked. Penelope, you can afford it. You're not struggling. It's not about whether I can. I cut in eyes locked on hers. It's about the fact that I don't want to. Her face tightened lips a thin, unforgiving line. You're really going to let your sister lose everything over a small misunderstanding? I laughed quiet at bitter. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Samantha cut me out of her wedding on purpose. She knew what she was doing. She wanted the money, not the person. You're being emotional. No. My voice didn't rise, but it deepened, grew sharper. You're being delusional. You think this is about cake or invoices? This is about the fact that she made me invisible, and you stood by and let her. We're family, she whispered. No, we're a PR campaign. And I didn't make the guest list. Mom stepped back slightly, but the performance continued. This wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. If it's not perfect, she'll regret it. Then, maybe I said, reaching for a tray of chilled mousse, she should have thought about that before she curated me out of the photos. I placed the mousse on the counter gently, like setting down truth. You said I didn't fit the vibe. So why should my money blend better than my presence? Mom's voice cracked, rising. Don't be so cold. You promised. I met her gaze. I didn't promise. I offered. Out of love. Out of belief that I mattered. I see now I was just a wallet in an apron. That offer is revoked. She stared at me, unsure whether to cry or storm out. You'll regret this. I didn't blink. If setting a boundary is something I'll regret, then I should have done it years ago. She didn't say goodbye. She just turned her heels, clicking against the tiled floor like punctuation marks of disappointment. As she left, it felt less like watching someone exit and more like watching a weight leave the room. I stood still, then turned back to the oven. The mixer purred softly behind me. I could live without being at Samantha's wedding, but I couldn't keep living as the invisible backbone summoned for scaffolding erased from celebration. If Sam wanted a wedding without her sister, then she could fund the fantasy without her too. Samantha's wedding day arrived dressed in quiet perfection. A crisp Saturday in late autumn. The kind of morning that begged for white dresses, filtered sun, and vows whispered under hanging lights. But not for them. Not anymore. While champagne glasses clinked somewhere far away, I was in the bakery rearranging the strawberry tart display when the phone rang. The number glared up at me, familiar, almost familial in its audacity. I didn't answer. Minutes later, a text arrived. Maddie, my cousin, one of Sam's bridesmaids. Pen, you won't believe this. They just got kicked out of the venue. Staff locked the doors right in front of the guests. The bride nearly fainted. I read it once, then again, not out of disbelief, out of affirmation. I had seen this moment coming, slow-motion collapse built on silence and assumption. No one had paid the venue's final balance. No savior emerged, and clearly I wasn't going to be the ghost funder anymore. At exactly 12:18 p.m., Samantha called. I answered, not to console her, but to hear the words she'd never dared say before. Penelope, she sobbed, you must be thrilled right now. You won. You just ruined my wedding. I pulled the phone from my ear, slightly glanced out the window at the clean glassware catching sunlight. My voice was calm, flat. You've got it wrong, Sam. I didn't ruin anything. You did, she scoffed, voice cracking. If you'd just paid like you said I cut in. You told me I didn't belong at the wedding, remember? So why would my money still be welcome? Silence. I didn't stop. You curated the guest list, Sam. You built your big day around an image, but the people who actually mattered, your real support system, you cut them out. So, when it all collapsed over one unpaid invoice, maybe it wasn't a strong foundation to begin with. "You're seriously going to let me be humiliated like this?" she cried. "I didn't think you could be this cold. You didn't think that I said evenly because you're used to a sister who never says no, who bails you out, who funds your dreams. Well, today I made a different choice, and now you get to sit with it." She went quiet, a sniffle. Then the call ended. An hour later, Maddie texted again. The wedding had been hastily moved to someone's backyard, someone from the groom's side. No music, no towering cake. Bouquets replaced with a few last-minute floral bundles. Guests wandered in confusion. Many left early. According to Maddie, Samantha stayed hidden for half the event. No smiles, no photos, no grace. Just a hollow echo of the ceremony she'd tried so hard to script. I stayed at the shop until dusk, scrubbed every surface, restocked every bin. I was done being the silent scaffolding for someone else's spotlight, done with being the invisible benefactor. I wasn't anyone's fallback plan anymore. 2 days later, on a gray post-storm afternoon, she texted, "Do you have time for coffee this afternoon? I want to talk." No exclamation point, no apology, but no blame either. I stared at the message for 3 seconds, then typed back, "Sure. Sparrow's Nest, 4 o'clock. It was a quiet cafe tucked into the historic district, no private corners, no room for performances. Just soft, yellow light and the sound of spoons against porcelain. She was already there when I arrived. Cream turtleneck, hair pulled back, face tired beneath the remnants of makeup. Her hands wrapped around her latte like she needed something to hold her together. "Hi," she said softly. "Hey," I replied, settling into the chair across from her. Silence stretched between us. I didn't break it. I wanted to see what she'd bring to the table now without a crisis, without a script. She finally spoke. "I know the wedding didn't go as planned. Everything spiraled. I probably shouldn't have let it get that far." I said nothing. She looked down, twisting her cup. "I'm not here to fight. I just wanted to ask, if I invited you now as family, would you be willing to help me cover some of the wedding debt I set down my cappuccino?" The warmth still in my palms. I repeated her words slowly. "If you invited me now?" She hesitated. "It's not like that. I don't want to lose you." "You didn't lose me," I said, meeting her eyes. "You left me. You built your big day around who you wanted me to be, and when I didn't fit that image, you edited me out." Her cheeks flushed. She opened her mouth to argue, but I raised a hand. "Don't say you didn't mean to. You had 6 months to treat me fairly. You didn't. Now you want to rebuild the image using my money." Her lips trembled. "I just wanted the day to be perfect." "Then maybe," I said quietly, "you shouldn't have cut out the people who loved you unconditionally." And with that, I leaned back. Because she wasn't here for reconciliation. She was here for rescue. But I had already saved myself. She murmured, almost to herself, "But you didn't need me for perfect." I stood slowly, steady. "Exactly," I said, my voice even. "So now, you can finish it without me. You're leaving." Sam's eyes widened, lips parted like she couldn't believe I would actually walk away. "Yes," I offered a calm smile. "Go ahead. Finish your coffee. At least something's still warm today." I turned without a glance back. It wasn't pride that carried me out of that cafe. It was clarity. It was survival. A year later, autumn returned to Asheville, brushing fire into the leaves of the old maple outside my shop. They scattered across the brick steps like quiet reminders of change. The front window still bore the name Harris and Vanilla, baked from the heart. I never changed it despite well-meaning friends suggesting rebrands and modern aesthetics. I didn't need a new name. I needed a place that meant something. The bakery had become more than a business. It was a boundary in brick and flour. Some customers came for the pastries, some for the silence, some just to watch me work behind glass, whispering that the space felt peaceful. I never told them what that peace had cost me, but they could probably feel it anyway. My family said nothing for months. No calls, no birthdays, no expectations. And for a while, the silence was enough. They needed space. So did I. 3 months later, my mother called. Not to guilt, not to negotiate. Just, how are you doing? She'd seen something online, people raving about my lemon cakes. I told her I was doing fine, and for once, that was enough. Since then, her calls were fewer, gentler. No more layered obligations hiding beneath soft tones. No more family means you have to. When she spoke now, she paused, waited. Let me breathe before I answered. Dad ever, the shadow on the wall, never called. But one day he left something under the door. A postcard. No return address. No image. Just 3 words in his deliberate, careful print, proud of you. I held it in my hands like something holy. Because sometimes change doesn't announce itself with fireworks, it arrives through silence held at the right moment. And Samantha. She never said she was sorry. No confessions, no pleas for forgiveness. But also, no requests, no invoices, no more emergencies dressed as connection. I heard she changed jobs. Layoffs swept through her old firm. She started freelancing beauty brands, small contracts. Recently, I saw her pop up on social media again. A new account, tips for budget weddings. The posts were polished as always, but the captions, they were different. Softer, less curated, more real. I didn't like or comment. I didn't need to. We had become something else now. Not enemies, not even estranged. Just 2 people who once shared a life, and now simply didn't. And I wasn't grieving that. I renovated the tiny apartment above the bakery, the one I used to crash in after 14-hour days. Now it's home. Real home. I finally bought the industrial mixer I'd put off for years. I hired Jamal, a young culinary student who told me with quiet pride that I'd restored his belief in honest work. Every dollar I earn now goes into me, into a life I can touch with both hands. No more being someone's safety net. No more smiling silently while they build dreams on my back. I'm not wealthier, but I'm not used. And that freedom, that's wealth no one can steal. One cool afternoon, Olivia, my former intern, came to visit from out of state. I offered her a slice of fresh lemon cake. She sat quietly, fork hovering above the plate, then asked softly, "Do you ever regret cutting ties with your family?" I didn't answer right away. Just sliced another piece, set it down on a floral-rimmed plate. Then I looked her in the eye. If that was the only way to stop being treated like I didn't matter, then no, I don't regret it. She nodded. No more questions, just understanding. Penelope's story isn't about bitterness. It's about liberation. A reminder that family is not an excuse to erase someone's worth. Sometimes real love is found not in sacrifice, but in boundaries. Because not everyone who shares your blood deserves your silence, your labor, or your kindness without limit. And true happiness, it doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself and no longer needing to explain why. Was Penelope too harsh? Or was this the only way to protect what remained of her dignity? Leave your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow for more stories that tell the truth about life, family, and the power of walking away.